Hello and welcome everyone. Today we are now moving on to our second class, and that is our range class. So now we'll be starting to do the free ones, free ninjutsus, for our range class, just like we did for attackers. So yeah, this is technically episode 14 or something like that. So yeah, let's start talking about fire style flame bombs. Has a 7-second long cooldown, power of 2 and a range of 5. It has a second input, which essentially means that you have 2 in the chamber. So, if you use one, the other one can be, slightly delayed. You can move around to whatever you need to, and then you can press it again, just like as if you did it the first time. It can be held, however the second one can't be held, so yeah, just be mindful of that. And it's just the pure damage ninjutsu. There isn't much for me to say, but it is really good at disrupting ninja tools, for example. Usually, someone might throw a ninja tool towards you, and you might, you might not pull off a ninjutsu, or maybe you feel like as if there's no way to counter it because your ninja tool is also on cooldown, or maybe you don't have a ninja tool that does that. So, you're thinking, okay, he threw maybe like something as basic as a kunai or a demon wind bomb at me, right? And I want to, try and somehow counter that within that small moment. This would be that kind of ninjutsu. This is the strength ninjutsu that can, is a quick, cheap, easy, and reliable way to get rid of ninja tools. And not only that, but deal really high amounts of damage, because even though it says in its description that it does a low power fireball, it's actually the same damage as a normal fireball, which we'll see eventually. But it does at least half of someone's HP bar, which is quite strong in comparison to all the things that attackers had, because most of the things that attackers had, initially was not that strong. So the fact that this is that strong is, quite obvious to the eyes, the feeling of the game when you're playing it. And yeah, you'll see and find out for yourself once you use it. But the best way to use this, in my opinion, is to either use it within your combos, as per usual, use it from a range, as obviously, but the best way, the absolute best way, is to use it using run and hit tactics. So, for example, what I like to do as a combination is something that's a paid DLC, but hiding an Ashjutsu with fire style flame bombs that we're reviewing right now. And I'd like to go ahead and shoot someone with it once, then I'd like to use send bonds, and then I'd like to use the flame bomb again. Sometimes I'd use the flame bomb twice in a row, just because the initial hit of the flame bomb gives kind of a good follow-up combo for any sort of projectile weapon that you're going to throw at them. So, it gives a little bit of a combo opener as well. Not within melees, but rather within ranged projectiles. So any sort of ninja tool that does damage from a range, you could use that when you're using it, and if if the hit lands, and if they don't have hyper armor. But yeah, other than that, it's really good for timing yourself, and you can really save that last one just in case. However, obviously it does have a timer before it runs out, but it is really useful in my use of it anyway. And despite everything, it is a very tactical ninjutsu actually. Like, it does quite a lot of mind games to people, because the moment they see something small, projectile like, and especially if they have hyper armor or some sort of armor that prevents them from taking damage, they will rush you, knowing purely that you have, wasted it. And it's kind of a bit of a mind game with that, because then you could trap them into stuff, and you could try and do other kind of things, and that's the advantage of it. It's really a bit of a mind game. Not only that, but it's just pure strength for what it is. So it's like it really attacks all those little creaks, all those little gaps in the armor of a lot of people. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Fireball Ninjutsu. I mean not Fireball, Flame Bombs. I keep mistaking it, but yeah, that's all I can really say. And hope you enjoyed the gameplay, and I'll see you guys next video. It's that simple. I genuinely don't have anything more to say to it. It just doesn't have hyper armor. You know, not all ninjutsus have hyper armor. Some ninjutsus have hyper armor. You just gotta, find out, or eventually once I cover it all, you'll find out as well that way. But range strength ninjutsus usually don't have any hyper armor. Most of them, I think so anyway, as far as I'm aware. Actually, there is Chidori. So Chidori has hyper armor and all that. But other than that, I still can't think of anything right now. Other than Chidori, that's pretty much it, I think. But yeah, again, enjoy. Attackers have hyper armor when they use their ninjutsus. Range for the starter classes, starter ninjutsus, they don't have it. And yeah, we'll review all the others when the time comes. But for now, within the gameplay I'm sure you've already seen, I'm going to be using Thunder Sword Keeper, which is not the SS version, just a normal version, just because I want to keep it, simple, fair, and just for the showcase. And I just really like this specific weapon, and I don't see it being used often by other noobs or people, or beginners, or intermediates even, anyone. Just no one uses it really, so I like to use it. And yeah, there isn't really anything too different. The normal kunai has slightly more different combos than what this has. So this is still kind of a bit more of the old combo system. But it does have the initial charge attack, which does stun, just like the Kusanagi sword or whatever it was called. So yeah, that's good. And that's pretty much what all range weapons have. So pretty good, pretty advantageful. And yeah, there isn't much for me to say. Just enjoy. I doubt I'll be using anything but the ninjutsu this time. Unlike Universal Pull, there isn't really anything that I necessarily actually have to compensate for, or have to add on to make it actually work. Universal Pull was probably almost the only thing that I would need to actually make it work, because it had quite a finicky hitbox. It was quite difficult to use, and it definitely required another ninjutsu, and even then I limited myself by using Lethal Whirlwind instead of something strong. So yeah, it is what it is. But that's how these videos go. Unlike most other YouTubers, they would usually showcase something, use other ninjutsus, use weapons, and then eventually, viewers would question, oh, what's that? But then they would have no answer to it. And, that's the issue. There isn't anything that they can have, that they can use. There's no one trying to show an example of, how to use a basic flame bomb in this sweaty ass meta. Just using it by itself, allowing people to do whatever they want to with their own build, but at least knowing how to use it is more important than just, using it for the sake of using it. So, always do it the correct distance. You can use it when people are charging at you, that kind of stuff. Pretty basic, but it's not what a lot of YouTubers do, unfortunately. I feel like, anyway. When I started the game, I wish I had like a full-on, pros, cons kind of thing, whenever I started the game, but there was absolutely no one, so I had to be that person, and that's where we are right now. Just kind of doing what I would have kind of done to help myself out. Not exactly all of the stats and stuff, or stuff like that. In fact, most of those videos I'll probably keep in a playlist that you can check out. But yeah, other than that, I seriously, you know, am confused with this community. Sometimes it's trying to help each other, sometimes it's not trying to help each other, sometimes it's trying to bring itself down. And the more and more I look at it, the more and more disappointed I am in it, because, it's been several years. Someone should be able to do something, someone should be able to say something. It's just, there should be change, honestly. And, people should have a bit more fucking discipline, rather than just accepting whatever comes their way. And, I know people, that can't help themselves. Some people, they would like change, but other people, don't change. So it's really the disadvantages of having a power fantasy and having a broken financial system for the game. Like, the game could definitely use a different path instead of a gacha system, and it could become so much more rich just because of that. But, saying just as a game designer who's created my own game as well, there is a much better system than a gacha system, This game is literally a gold mine, and everyone is just ignoring it in Bandai Namco, or whoever the developers are at this rate. I don't even know. Because it's crazy to me that such a gold mine is just sitting here doing nothing, right? I understand it's pulling money, but the amount of money is incomparable to maybe at least a couple more million, right? Imagine a Naruto open world game, and it was now properly made because this has been properly made. Oh my god, now suddenly everyone's going to be playing it, especially if it's in this game specifically. People want PvP, PvE. They don't want just a Naruto world where they explore and stuff like that. They want to transition between both of them. They want to go ahead and do stuff in a world, and they want to also play multiplayer. That's what I would want as well. And I find it quite dumb that, such a big company fails to see something so basic. Or maybe they do see it, but they refuse to do it, which is just beyond my understanding. Because, you're not really going to blow the budget here. You're going to kind of keep it quite stable. Especially if you just keep it simple. But, I guess whatever the developers are thinking of, they just, or whoever the marketing strategy or whoever it is, I don't know, to be honest. It's just so confusing. It's just so much potential just wasted and lost. It's the same thing with another game called Absolver, right? Absolver is, I'm sure everyone's heard of it kind of at one point. Maybe people have forgotten it. But, it's like one of the greatest martial arts game, almost. Or maybe there is. But it still has flaws in my opinion, And that's the reason why it died. Mastery of the game was very difficult. It was only understood by most of the pros who managed to understand the game. Otherwise, it was essentially unplayable. Now, Shinobi Striker almost resembles that. It's almost unplayable because of how chaotic it is. But, if you actually check, more and more new players are always kind of in the game and are always trying to play the game. So, it's actually the opposite. Shinobi Striker is far more easier to learn and grasp just because it's, very basic to just grab whatever you want and then use it. And, usually it would half the time work, and then the other half it won't work because everyone else is experienced. And they abuse meta weapons, so that's annoying. Like, imagine being a new player and you can't fucking move, hit anyone, or do anything. That's like the worst case scenario. Who would want to play a game where they just die? I would buy Dying Simulator if I really wanted to go ahead and do that. But, yeah, I guess the pros of this game just don't understand it, and they're just too competitive. And not only that, but it's quite unfortunate that even if you are a pro and you are in a clan and you're in a 4v4, the system should automatically match you with someone else who wants to go ahead and do a 4v4. So, you know, it should be like clan versus clan, 4 people versus 4 people in a party, you know? Not like 4 randoms versus a whole clan. That's just unfair. It doesn't even give you a single chance to do something. And it's just so dumb. It doesn't make sense, and it's just not fair. Right? Now, everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. However, it's the fact that, you know, if the end game for everything in a competitive match is going to be uncreative, it's also going to be quite boring in certain senses, right? Like, for example, CSGO, right? Even that is creative. You have to be creative in CSGO. You want to go ahead and find a new spot for your flashbangs or molotovs or whatever the fuck, and, you know, land a trickster or something, and then that will win you the game, or kill like a really good player maybe. And, you know, what do we have in Shinobi Striker? Oh, I'm gonna use the same shit over and over and over again. It's not really creative. It's not really different. Is it meta abuse? Yeah, it's meta abuse because the game developers allowed it so. And again, everything depends on the player base confronting the developers. That's the best I could say. I mean, it's the pure fact that no one tries to do it because everyone has given up hope. So, really dumb. I didn't want to talk this long, but it's seriously stupid. You know, I don't know how to really explain it more than that. It just truly is the most stupidest decision I have ever seen from a company, right? I genuinely mean it. If I could work for the developers in Shinobi Striker, if I could be the game designer to a certain extent, and I could change a few things, then fucking hey, this game's gonna succeed and make us millions. That's all I can really say. I don't have any more words than that. But, you know, obviously that's not such a thing, not a dream that's gonna happen anytime soon. But, you know, it is what it is. Nothing we can do about it, especially in this day and age, when everyone, you know, knows that such a thing's not gonna happen. You know, that kind of thing only happens, I don't know, to people who are lucky, to people who try to act stupid and get all the attention that they want. Like, think of Actual Speed. He had to act all of this shit out just so that then he can get popular. Otherwise, if he had been a normal person, he would have never gotten popular. Same with, I don't know, Queso, for example, right? We all know why he's popular, so that's why he got popular. He's kind of like a Jev, right? I don't know, there's just a lot of people, there's just a lot of popular YouTubers and stuff like that. They all got popular for their own reasons, right? It wasn't necessarily just because of them, not usually anyway. And usually it kind of ends up just being people who have certain specific personalities and specific reasons why they're funny or why they're entertaining, and that's the reason why people watch them. That's as simple. It is as simple as that. Humans are very simple creatures. If someone is into science, someone will watch someone who's into science, whether that be a comedic version of science, whether that be someone who's into a more detailed version of science. Same thing goes for games. Some people like a detailed version of a game. Some people like, you know, what currently is available, which is just quick information and not exactly, you know, experience related detail. And I think that's what this game's missing, and that's the reason why I'm doing it. Other than that, I feel like everyone else for Shinobi Striker is slightly, not exactly lazy, I'd say, right? The effort into editing and stuff like that happens for them. I don't put much effort. But, you know, it's strange to me. It's strange. It just truly is, right? We've got like a few people who have done showcases, but it's just been showing the actual thing without any description. I know that I'm not really doing it professionally either, but I'm doing it at least with something that most others aren't offering, which I feel like they should have been. So, you know, you're stuck with me talking for around 20 minutes on something as basic as flame bomb. But hey, at least you stayed for the talk, I guess, if you're still here. But, you know, it's crazy. It truly is crazy. I do wish this game to improve. I genuinely wish for the most creative things to happen to it. But even if it doesn't, I'm gonna eventually create my own game. And however many years it's gonna take, God knows. But, you know, it's slowly developing. And if anyone wants to check it out, you know, the first game isn't exactly the greatest, but, you know, our game studio is called Windfall Studio. So you guys can go check it out if you want. I'll put the link to it in the description maybe. And, you know, go check it out once in a while. You'll probably only see like one game on there, which is Beat Low, which hasn't been successful, which to be honest I expected. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, that's not the direction that we're going with in games, and I didn't initially design the game, so, you know, eventually, once the game is, in my head anyway, fully developed and ready to actually be in production, kind of like a Shinobi Striker knockoff, I suppose, but not really. Kind of like my own fantasy that I've been dreaming of. Kind of more like medieval knights. Not really medieval knights, but more like elven knights. Kind of like a high fantasy... How can I say? I suppose it's very similar to this, but it involves a lot more weapon-related stuff and more brutal kind of stuff. Or kind of ninjutsus or taijutsus or whatever you want to call it technically. But yeah. All I can really say is that the best thing is to take matters into your own hands. And I'm not really promising that I'm gonna make something better than Shinobi Striker. Maybe I might end up fucking up and then making something worse than it. Maybe something similar to it. God knows, but I hope not. I hope I make something better than it, and I hope I eventually can fix the issue of meta. But obviously, meta is not something that's ever going to stop, and that's a very big issue, in my opinion, in gaming. And I feel like game developers all round should just try to find a solution to that, find some sort of system that could actually prevent meta from existing and invent, like, a very fair play. But, you know, that's not going to be an actual thing. Unless, of course, I somehow do it. Which would be fucking insane. But I don't think so, right? I don't think it will happen. It's not maybe physically possible. That's all I can say. It's the equivalent of the cheap, fast, and good, right? If it's something that's cheap and fast, it's not going to be good. If it's going to be good and cheap, then it's not going to be fast. If it's not going to be fast and good, then it's not going to be cheap. Yeah, it's as simple as that. That's exactly how meta is as well. If it's going to be fast and overpowered, then technically it should have, you know, a long cooldown or something, some sort of a debuff. And I think that's where Shinobi Striker actually really struggles, because it doesn't give players enough of a debuff for all the actions that they're taking. You know, if you're using fire style ninjutsu, you're going to be more weaker to water style ninjutsu. That should be a thing, right? And if you're using water style, you're weaker to fire style. It makes more sense that way. You're using for example, water style with lightning style, you can go ahead and do extra damage with it. It's some basic stuff, basic combinations, but it just doesn't exist in this game. Why? I don't know. I guess the developers thought it would be too complex, which is fair, right? However, another thing is the fact that they could have just made stuff very simple, right? Maybe kept that part of the complex side into a PvE part and kept some side of it to the PvP part. So it didn't necessarily have to be like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just very strange. Very strange indeed. Something I can't wrap my head around is just stupidity sometimes. Sometimes, stupidity beats all, no matter what you do. No matter how hard you try. Somehow, in some sort of way, stupidity will win anything that is in any shape or form good for people. And I don't know how it works. That's all I can say. Anyway, thank you for tuning into my podcast. But yeah, like, subscribe, push the notification bell, and I'll see you next episode, and I'll make sure that, these long rants don't go on for too long. Anyway guys, peace out, and I'll see you in the next video, and yeah, stay creative.